That was beautiful. That was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Go Vikings. Gentlemen, have you ever had a pillow fight with your wife? I have. But it wasn't the kind where feathers were flying all around the bedroom. Ours was a fight about pillows. And the only things flying were words. The day started happy enough with lots of promise. It was a move-in day for our youngest son as he was settling into his first apartment as an adult. Our birthday picnic was also in the schedule, complete with croquet and Jell-O cake. After some unforeseen delays, the moving party finally got into full gear, and 6 hours later, we were finished and spent. Mission accomplished. Lisa and I were finally back on the road at 10 p.m. for our 2-hour ride home. We had lots to talk about, so as usual, the radio stayed silent. Then, about 40 miles from home, my wife asked the big question. So, what did you ever do with those pillows? Those pillows were, in my opinion, 6 perfectly good pillows salvaged from camp. That's right, just like this. As a part of the procedure to eradicate bed bugs from a room in the chalet, all the pillows were targeted for the dumpster. What a waste, I said to myself. I was camp's self-declared expert on identifying bed bugs, and I knew what I wasn't seeing. After a thorough inspection, there were no bed bugs in any of the pillows. For extra precaution, I bagged the pillows and put them in the garage for a few weeks. But when my wife spotted them, she made it absolutely clear that she did not want them in her house. But I knew better. You know where this is going? Confident that they were clean, I switched them out with 6 of our oldest pillows in the house. Certainly Lisa would be proud of her man for taking the initiative and dumping the old, stained, flattened pillows. And my, didn't these new pillows look nice and feel good? So, Bill, what did you ever do with those pillows? My answer ignited what is now our infamous pillow fight. Uncharacteristically, I should say, neither of us would give in, and a very unnerving silence filled our car. On came the radio, and not another word was spoken for the rest of the car ride and for the rest of the night. Exhausted and disgusted, Lisa immediately went to bed upon returning home. But I was so worked up I couldn't sleep. With guilt hounding me like a relentless dog, I went straight to work, going through the house and switching out all those new pillows. Out to the dumpster they went, finally. I cleaned the kitchen, I decluttered the living room, I washed 2 loads of clothes, and I did a lot of praying. At 2 a.m., I hit the sack and spent the next hour wrestling with what to do next. By morning, I knew what I had to do. The answer was in my wallet, in the form of a card I had given to a camp full of high school boys 5 years earlier at a pep talk on the virtue of all things responsibility. It's the same card that was on your chair when you came in. I remember telling those boys, I should really make you pay me for this card. If you heed its advice, you will make lots and lots and lots of money. You will have a happy marriage, and your kids will always love you. And so will everyone in your world, including your boss, your coworkers, your friends, and your neighbors. Better yet, I told them confidently, when you get rich and famous by following the wisdom printed on this card, you're going to want to come back to Camp Lebanon and make a $20,000 donation as a thank you for the blessing I'm about to give you. That's this card. On the one side of the card, the card reads, when given an opportunity, show responsibility. Keep the word, finish the work. God's reward is declared in Proverbs 3 and 4. It says, let steadfast love, that's that chesed. It's a special kind of love about God's loyal love, his covenantal love that he wants for us. It's that loyal obedience. Let steadfast love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on your heart. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and man. What employer wouldn't reward this kind of responsible worker? And what wife wouldn't dive into the arms of this kind of loving husband? At the time, my wife had nothing for me except a cold shoulder, and one that I fully deserved. You see, 31 years ago, I pledged myself to Lisa's happiness, promising to serve and protect her. Bringing unwanted pillows into the house against her clearly expressed will was not part of that agreement. Simply stated, I had failed in fulfilling my responsibility to my beloved wife. So it's time for me to flip the card. Flip the card. It says, having acted irresponsibly, take responsibility. Own it, make it right. God's mandate is spelled out in Romans 13:8. It says, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. For he who loves his fellow man and his wife has fulfilled the law. For me, it was time. It was past time to take full responsibility for my actions. So as soon as Lisa was up the next morning, I met her next to the bed, and I took both of her soft hands into mine. And I looked into her wounded eyes. And what was I to say? What was the responsible thing for me to say? It would have been a lot easier for me to say, I am sorry, or if, whatever, I am sorry, and then try to excuse my actions. But that is no apology, and it's certainly no remedy. There was a better way, a higher way, and it was this. Lisa, I was wrong in bringing those pillows into our house. Would you forgive me? Thankfully, amazingly, she did. And a new conversation began that day. For me, now it was time to flip the card back to the green side, your green side, and get back to serving my wife. When given an opportunity, show responsibility. Keep your word. Finish the work. So in order to live a life in 4D, as we've been talking about this weekend, a life that looks and sounds just like Jesus, we must show and take responsibility. Now, let me tell you about a happy occasion with my wife. Just this past Sunday, Lisa and I sat down to watch, I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, to watch the Miss America pageant. Sorry, guys. Neither one of us were big fans of the show, but we were exhausted from a busy weekend at camp, and we were eager to try out our brand new love seat in the family room. The pageant was interesting, though I must be careful to note that during the swimsuit competition, we switched over and watched a rerun of MASH on another challenge. That was a good decision. I must note, too, that our girl, Miss Arkansas, won the competition. So, with this beauty competition as a backdrop, I thought it'd be fun for us to have our own contest. Are you ready for this? For Mr. Responsible. All right? Mr. And what's really cool is that you guys get to be the judges and help me select the winner. Are you ready? So here are the finalists. Finalist number 1 for Mr. Responsible 2017 was a colorful man who was despised by his brothers and sold into slavery. But no matter his lot, the Lord was with him, and so a consistently responsible Joseph prospered. As a slave in Potiphar's house, as a prisoner forgotten in an Egyptian prison, and as the second in command over all Egypt. Gentlemen, let's give it up for Joseph! Yeah. Finalist number 2 proved his responsibility as a skinny-armed sheep herder, unafraid of neither bear nor lion or even a Goliath-sized enemy of God. As king, David met success on all fronts at home and abroad until the day, in a time of weakness, he had one of his mighty warriors' wives. He had one of his mighty warriors murdered, so that he could steal the man's wife for his own selfish and lustful pleasure. Confronted by God's prophet for such sinful irresponsibility, David owned up to his sin and humbly begged for God's forgiveness. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, he penned in what we know as Psalm 51. Against you and you only have I sinned. Wash me and I will be whiter than snow. God did indeed forgive David, and after a long life, he became famous for being a man after God's own heart. Gentlemen, I present to you King David. At age 8, finalist number 3 got an early start in his duties as the king of Judah. At age 19, King Josiah got religion. And by age 20, he began a systematic cleansing of his kingdom from all things pagan. 6 years later, Josiah cleaned up the temple, at which time a scroll containing the long-lost book of the law was found. Hearing for the first time of God's threatened judgments for his people's irresponsible faithlessness, Josiah ripped his clothes and tore open his heart in owning up to the great sins of his fathers. Gentlemen, behold Josiah the Responsible. Finalist number 4 for Mr. Responsible was a gluten-free and a glutton-free teenage exile from Judah who was forced into enrolling at King Nebuchadnezzar's University of Babylon. Without ever forsaking God, Daniel proved extraordinarily responsible, rising to the top levels of power in both the Babylonian and Persian administrations. A long life lived without fault before God or the king rewarded him with a quiet night with the lions, and soon after a much-deserved promotion. Gentlemen, consider the great and responsible prophet Daniel. Finalist number 5, believe it or not, still plays for the Minnesota Vikings. Do you remember this play? Oh, man. Now listen to Blair Walsh in his remarks after the biggest miss of his career. Listen to this.
You know what? It's so quick. I have no idea what happened. You have to look back at the film. But I can tell you this: it's my fault. I don't care whether you give me a watermelon bowl. I should have put that through. And I know Jeff did his job, and Kevin did his job, and I'm the one who did more job there. So that's on me.
That's on me. Blair did not blame the cold. He did not blame Jeff Locke for not spinning the laces the right direction. He did not blame his teammates for failing to score even a single touchdown that afternoon. No one said he took full responsibility. So, gentlemen, I present to you the man who will boot the winning field goal in Super Bowl 51. Number 3, Blair Walsh. How about that? Mr. Responsible. You know our 6th and final finalist very well. In fact, he's sitting in your chair. Gentlemen, what is your story of responsibility? At home, in the bedroom, in the boardroom, on the job site, with your kids? Have you made promises? Show responsibility and keep your word. Have you accepted an assignment? Finish the work. Have you screwed up, dropped the ball, flip the card over, and take responsibility, own the failure, and make it right? Responsible men live by this rule. It's always my turn. It's always my turn. Others may share in the blame, no doubt, but in the power of God's almighty presence in your life, you can and should resolve to act first. With God's help, you can keep your word and finish the job. With God's help, you can say those 4 magic words: will you forgive me? With God's help, you can heed the wisdom heard this weekend in the 12-man talks and grow life in 4D. With God's help, you can be response-able. And now for the winner of the 2017 Mr. Responsible competition. Monty, may I have the envelope, please? Mr. Responsible. Your 2017 Mr. Responsible is... I'm sorry. You're going to have to ask the one person in your life who's waiting for you to show and take responsibility. Then you're going to know, then they're going to know who the winner is. Gentlemen, may God help us all.